The pursuit of online fame can make people ignore every warning sign. 5 content creators pushed dangerous situations to their breaking point when going viral became more important than going home alive. These true stories reveal what happens when the camera keeps rolling even as everything goes wrong. It was March 15, 2019, at a remote mountain cabin outside Fresno, California. The morning air was crisp at 45 degrees Fahrenheit, with dense pine forest stretching for miles in every direction. Trent Ashford was 28 years old and worked part-time as a barista at a downtown coffee shop while pursuing his dream of becoming a lifestyle influencer. He'd been posting daily content about fitness routines, cooking experiments, and motivational speeches for 3 years, but his subscriber count had stagnated at 2,400 followers. Trent was obsessed with his appearance, spending hours perfecting his hair and outfit before filming each video. Co-workers described him as vain and entitled, constantly expecting special treatment because of his online presence. The cabin was Trent's sanctuary from the world that didn't appreciate his content. He had specifically chosen this isolated rental property, 5 miles from the nearest neighbor, to avoid interruptions and noise complaints during filming. The single-room structure featured a small kitchen, basic furniture, and most importantly for Trent, no cell phone service that might distract from his creative process. Recent months had been devastating for Trent's channel. His subscriber count had dropped to 1,800, and his videos rarely received more than 50 views each. Comment sections filled with criticism about his repetitive content and obvious desperation for attention. Trent knew he needed something spectacular to revive his dying online presence. He had been researching extreme content ideas for weeks, studying viral videos and analyzing what made them successful. Professional bartenders performing flaming cocktail demonstrations caught his attention, particularly videos showing elaborate fire displays that generated millions of views. Trent decided to attempt something no other content creator had tried: a tower of 6 flaming drinks using high-proof grain alcohol. Trent spent the entire previous day setting up his equipment throughout the small cabin kitchen. He positioned 3 cameras at different angles to capture every moment of what he believed would be his comeback video. Professional lighting equipment filled the cramped space, creating the perfect ambiance for his planned spectacle. He had purchased several bottles of 190-proof grain alcohol specifically for maximum visual impact. The remote location had spotty cell phone service, but Trent had brought a satellite internet device specifically for live streaming his comeback video. The expensive equipment represented his last investment in his failing channel, purchased with his final credit card. On the evening of March 15, Trent began his live stream with 43 viewers watching. He had arranged 6 glass containers in a pyramid formation on the wooden kitchen counter, each filled with grain alcohol that burned with an intense blue flame. Trent wore his favorite cotton shirt and had styled his hair with extra product to look perfect on camera. As he lit the first container, the flame rose well over a foot high, much larger than he had expected based on his earlier setup tests. Excited by the dramatic visual effect, Trent decided to add more alcohol to intensify the flames for his audience. The live stream chat filled with excited comments as viewers watched the dangerous display unfold in real time. When Trent attempted to light the second level of his pyramid, grain alcohol splashed onto his cotton shirt sleeve. The fabric ignited instantly, and Trent panicked, stumbling backward and knocking over the remaining containers. High-proof alcohol spread rapidly across the wooden counter and floor, creating a wall of flames between Trent and the cabin's only exit door. His hair caught fire as Trent tried to pat down his burning clothes. The incident continued to unfold on the live stream as his clothing and hair remained visibly on fire. The fire spread through the small kitchen within seconds, igniting curtains and wooden cabinets. Trent died from severe burns and smoke inhalation after the fire spread through the cabin. The cabin burned completely to the ground, leaving only charred remains and melted camera equipment. The property owner discovered the destruction 3 days later during a routine maintenance check. Local authorities reviewed the live stream footage and determined the death was accidental due to reckless behavior with flammable materials. But Trent wasn't the only content creator whose quest for viral fame led to a deadly miscalculation. In Ohio, an urban explorer's determination to capture exclusive footage would take him into a basement filled with invisible danger. It was August 22, 2017, in the basement of a defunct shopping mall in Akron, Ohio. The temperature outside had reached 89 degrees Fahrenheit, but the underground levels remained cool and damp from decades of neglect. Garrett Voss was 31 years old and worked the night shift at a warehouse loading dock while spending his weekends exploring abandoned buildings for his urban exploration blog. Garrett had been documenting forgotten places for 2 years, building a following of 3,200 subscribers who enjoyed his fearless approach to trespassing in restricted areas. Friends described him as a thrill seeker who constantly pushed boundaries, often bragging about evading security guards and ignoring posted warnings. The mall had been abandoned for over a decade, its interior stripped to bare concrete. Garrett learned previous urban explorers had documented only the main retail floors, not the basement levels. Garrett's channel was struggling against competition from other explorers who had already covered most accessible abandoned locations in Ohio. His view counts had been declining for months, and he desperately needed exclusive footage from a place no other content creator had documented. The mall's basement utility levels represented virgin territory that could give him a significant advantage over his competitors. He had spent weeks planning this exploration, studying, building blueprints, and identifying the safest entry points. Garrett recruited a camera operator to wait outside while he explored alone, wanting to maintain his reputation as a fearless solo explorer who didn't need backup or safety support. The basement entrance was located behind the former department store Anchor, accessible through a damaged service door that had been pried open by previous trespassers. As Garrett approached the opening, he noticed a strong chemical smell, but dismissed it as typical for old buildings that had been sealed for years. Garrett's determination to capture never-before-seen footage outweighed any safety concerns. He had built his entire online persona around being the explorer who went where others wouldn't dare, and backing down now would damage his credibility with his audience. On the afternoon of August 22nd, Garrett descended into the basement level through the damaged service entrance. His camera operator remained outside, monitoring Garrett's progress through a wireless video feed that transmitted his footage in real time. The underground corridors were pitch black, requiring Garrett to use powerful LED lights to illuminate his path. Garrett moved through several utility corridors, documenting rusted pipes, abandoned electrical equipment, and decades of accumulated debris. The chemical smell grew stronger as he ventured deeper underground, but Garrett continued filming, excited about the exclusive content he was capturing for his channel. The camera operator outside lost contact with Garrett's wireless video feed shortly before Garrett entered the sealed utility room, likely due to underground interference. After 30 minutes of exploration, Garrett discovered a sealed utility room that appeared completely untouched since the mall's closure. The heavy metal door was locked, but Garrett had brought tools specifically for bypassing such obstacles. He forced open the door and entered with his camera equipment, eager to document whatever lay inside. The room contained decades-old gas pipes that had slowly displaced breathable oxygen inside the sealed space. Without proper ventilation, oxygen levels inside the room had fallen to dangerously low levels over the years. Garrett had no way of detecting the hazard as he stepped into the contaminated environment. The oxygen-depleted air caused Garrett to lose consciousness within seconds of entering the room. His camera continued recording as he collapsed to the concrete floor, while the wireless monitoring feed failed due to the depth of the underground location. Garrett died from asphyxiation caused by oxygen-depleted air in the sealed utility room. After Garrett failed to return at their agreed check-in time, the camera operator contacted emergency services. Responders later entered the basement with ventilation equipment and recovered Garrett's body. Investigators also retrieved his camera, which contained uninterrupted footage of his final exploration. The video was retained as evidence and was never publicly released. The lower utility levels of the abandoned mall were subsequently secured due to hazardous air conditions. In Ohio, an urban explorer's determination to capture exclusive footage led him into a basement filled with invisible danger. But in Arizona, a fitness influencer's quest for the perfect desert backdrop would put her directly in nature's path of destruction. It was September 8, 2015, in a remote desert wash 30 miles southeast of Phoenix, Arizona. The temperature had reached 104 degrees Fahrenheit by mid-afternoon, with the narrow canyon walls radiating heat like an oven. Paige Holloway was 26 years old and managed a retail clothing store during the week while spending her evenings trying to build a fitness influencer brand. Paige had been posting workout videos and motivational content for 18 months, but her follower count remained frustratingly stuck despite her constant efforts to create engaging content. Paige's fitness content was virtually indistinguishable from thousands of other influencers posting similar workout routines and inspirational quotes. She desperately needed something that would set her apart from the competition and potentially attract the attention of major fitness brands who might offer sponsorship deals. Her apartment was filled with ring lights, camera equipment, and workout gear that she had purchased with credit cards, betting everything on her eventual success as an influencer. Paige chose the Desert Wash for its dramatic 40-foot sandstone walls and natural golden hour lighting. She planned a choreographed workout combining yoga and calisthenics, believing the setting would finally produce the standout video her struggling fitness channel needed. On the morning of September 8th, Paige noticed dark storm clouds gathering over distant mountains, but the lighting conditions in the canyon were too perfect to postpone filming. She had driven 3 hours to reach this remote location and couldn't afford to waste the trip. Her filming partner expressed concern about the weather, but Paige insisted they proceed with the planned shoot. She set up multiple cameras throughout the narrow wash to capture different angles of her routine. She positioned herself in the deepest part of the canyon, where the towering walls created the most dramatic backdrop for her performance. The setup took over an hour, with Paige adjusting each camera angle to ensure perfect framing. Desert washes are particularly dangerous during monsoon season because they channel flash floods from distant rainfall. The narrow walls that create such stunning visuals also create deadly traps when water levels rise rapidly. Warning signs posted at the canyon entrance specifically cautioned visitors about flash flood risks, but Paige had ignored them in her focus on creating content. As she began filming her workout sequence, her partner operated cameras from the canyon rim 40 feet above. The storm clouds were now clearly visible 20 miles away, but Paige insisted on completing her planned routine. She had spent too much time and money on this shoot to abandon it over distant weather. Paige performed an elaborate yoga sequence in the canyon bottom, moving through a planned sequence of poses while maintaining perfect form for the cameras. She was completely focused on her performance, determined to create the viral content that would transform her struggling channel into a success story. Suddenly, her filming partner heard a distant rumbling sound that grew rapidly louder. Around the canyon bend, a fast-moving surge of muddy water several feet high appeared around the canyon bend. The flash flood had originated from rainfall in the distant mountains, channeling through the narrow wash system with devastating force. Paige had no time to react as the torrent knocked her off balance and swept her downstream along with her camera equipment. The canyon walls were too steep and smooth for her to climb to safety, and the current was far too powerful for swimming. Her partner remained on the canyon rim as the flood surged through the wash. Her filming partner immediately called rescue services, but the remote location delayed response times significantly. Search teams recovered Paige's body 4 days later, along with fragments of her camera equipment scattered throughout the wash. Investigators later confirmed that no usable footage was recovered from the damaged cameras, and the wash was temporarily closed following the incident. The case was ruled accidental death due to flash flooding in a restricted area. Paige died from drowning and blunt force trauma after being carried several miles downstream by the flood. It was January 14, 2018, on a remote frozen lake in northern Minnesota, 40 miles from the nearest town. The temperature had dropped to -18 degrees Fahrenheit, with a brutal wind chill that made the air feel like razor blades against exposed skin. Jet Blackwood was 33 years old and worked as an insurance adjuster during the day, while spending his free time creating extreme challenge content for his YouTube channel. Jet had built a following of 4,800 subscribers by performing increasingly dangerous cold weather stunts, including ice swimming, snow cave survival challenges, and hypothermia endurance tests. Friends described him as an adrenaline junkie, who constantly needed to top his previous achievements, often ignoring basic safety protocols in pursuit of viral content. The frozen lake stretched for 2 miles in each direction, covered by 18 inches of solid ice that had formed during weeks of sub-zero temperatures. Jet had chosen this remote location specifically to avoid interference from park rangers or concerned bystanders who might try to stop his most ambitious challenge yet. Jet's previous ice swimming video had drawn 50,000 views, prompting viewers to push him toward more extreme challenges. Seeking to escalate, he planned an underwater swim beneath thick ice, entering and exiting through a single hole. He based the idea on videos of professional ice divers, but ignored their use of guide ropes, safety divers, and air backups. Confident in his cold tolerance, Jet recruited a 3-person camera crew to film the stunt, promising them a share of the revenue once the video went viral. The crew spent 2 hours cutting a 4-foot square hole in the 18-inch ice using a chainsaw and ice picks. The opening revealed black water that looked like a portal to another world. Steam rose from the surface as the 34-degree water met the frigid air, creating an ominous atmosphere that should have served as a warning. On the afternoon of January 14th, Jet entered the water wearing only swimming trunks and a diving mask. His camera crew positioned themselves around the entry hole to film his descent and planned return. Jet took several deep breaths and dove underwater, beginning his swim parallel to the ice surface. The underwater environment was completely disorienting, with uniform white ice above and dark water below, providing no reference points for navigation. Jet had planned to swim in a straight line for 90 seconds before returning to the opening, but the featureless environment made it impossible to maintain direction or judge distance accurately. After 2 minutes underwater, Jet became confused about his location relative to the entry hole. The uniform ice ceiling and dark water below made it impossible to determine which direction led back to safety. He attempted to surface, but found only solid ice above him. Without a guide rope or reference points, Jet had no way to navigate back to the opening. Panic set in as he realized he was lost beneath the frozen surface as his breath hold time ran out. Jet swam frantically beneath the ice, searching for the entry hole as cold shock and oxygen deprivation impaired his coordination and judgment. The ice above him was too thick to break through, and the uniform white surface provided no visual reference points. Disoriented and running out of breath, he moved in widening arcs beneath the frozen lake, but was unable to locate the opening before disappearing from view. When Jet failed to resurface, the camera crew attempted to cut additional holes, but lacked the equipment and training required for ice rescue operations. Emergency services arrived 3 hours later, but were unable to locate him beneath the frozen surface. His body was recovered during the spring thaw 4 months later. Investigators reviewed the crew's footage and statements as part of the inquiry, but no usable underwater video was recovered. The incident was ruled an accidental death due to reckless behavior in hazardous conditions. Jet died from drowning and hypothermia beneath the ice. In Minnesota, an extreme challenger's ice swimming stunt ended when he became lost beneath the frozen surface. But in Texas, a DIY rocket builder's final experiment would create an explosion that could be seen for miles. It was November 3rd, 2018, on a remote ranch property in West Texas, 60 miles from the nearest town. The temperature had reached 78 degrees Fahrenheit under clear skies, with flat, barren landscapes stretching endlessly in every direction. Axel Stone was 29 years old and worked as a delivery driver for a local courier service while spending his evenings building DIY science projects for his YouTube channel. Axel had been posting videos of homemade experiments for 2 years, gradually escalating from simple chemistry demonstrations to elaborate engineering projects that pushed the boundaries of safety and legality. His subscriber count had grown to 6,200 followers who enjoyed his fearless approach to dangerous builds and complete disregard for proper safety protocols. Axel's garage workshop was filled with power tools, chemical supplies, and half-finished projects that would have horrified any professional engineer. He had no formal training in chemistry or engineering, relying entirely on internet research and trial-and-error experimentation. Previous videos had featured homemade explosives, improvised rocket engines, and electrical devices that regularly caught fire during testing. Axel's most successful video showed a homemade rocket reaching roughly 200 feet, drawing 75,000 views and prompting viewers to push him toward larger, more extreme projects. Seeking to escalate, he planned a much bigger rocket and intended to ride it himself to capture first-person footage. He chose a potassium nitrate and sugar fuel mixture after online research, believing it offered high thrust using accessible materials. He secured permission to work on a remote West Texas ranch by promising the owner a share of future video revenue, counting on the isolation to avoid interference. Over 3 weeks, Axel built a 10-foot rocket from PVC pipe and salvaged metal parts, attaching a crude harness so he could strap himself to the device. With no formal training, guide systems, or safety equipment, he relied entirely on internet tutorials, convinced his preparation was sufficient, despite ignoring basic rocket engineering and safety principles. On the afternoon of November 3rd, Axel strapped himself to the side of his homemade rocket using climbing harnesses and rope. He had positioned multiple remote cameras around the launch site to capture the event from different angles, expecting the footage to become his most viral content ever and launch his career as a professional content creator. Axel's fuel mixture was far more unstable than he realized, mixed in improper ratios and packed into a poorly constructed motor casing. Unlike professionally manufactured rocket engines, his homemade design lacked pressure relief, reinforcement, and quality control, making failure during ignition highly likely. When Axel ignited the motor, the rocket catastrophically failed instead of producing controlled thrust. The casing ruptured under sudden pressure, sending burning fuel and metal fragments outward as the structure disintegrated at ground level. The remote cameras captured the sudden failure and fire before the footage cut off. With no witnesses and no scheduled check-in, the remote launch site went unnoticed until the ranch owner discovered the debris field 2 days later during a routine property check and contacted authorities. Investigators recovered the damaged cameras and reviewed the footage as part of the inquiry, determining the incident resulted from reckless construction and the use of an improvised rocket device in hazardous conditions. Axel died from blast trauma, fragmentation injuries, and severe burns at the launch site. Thanks for watching. Want to see more? Click on your screen now.